Space, the final frontier.
This is the podcast of State of the Federation.
Its ongoing mission.
To explore strange new ships.
To seek out new builds and new combinations.
To boldly go where no fleet has gone before.
Hello there, citizens of the Federation, and welcome back to another State of the Federation. Man, it has been a long time since we've heard that, hasn't it? Well, it's great to be back. So, my name is Tucker. I'm your host tonight. And with me are my two favorite co-hosts in the entire world, Robert and Joseph. Why don't you guys go ahead and introduce yourselves?
Hi everyone, Joseph. I'm back as well with Tucker, which is fantastic.
And Robert?
Hey, good evening, everybody. It's Robert. This is my first appearance on State of the Federation. Happy to be here.
So, just really quickly, there are many of you who probably don't know what the show is because it's been what did we figure out it was since the last time it was on the air?
September 30th, 2015, I believe.
Not that anyone has it memorized.
No.
All right. So, well, it's been a while, obviously, about a year and a half. So this show is intended to be a all things competitive attack wing podcast. News, strategies, ship reviews. We're also, looking at getting some information towards the more casual player, though I know Joseph has strong feelings about that.
Spike for life.
Yes. Joseph is referencing there a Magic the Gathering thing that puts people as Timmy, who do things for the enjoyment, Johnny, who do things for expression, and Spike, who do things to prove things. We've decided that Robert's the Timmy, I'm the Johnny, and Joseph is the Spike. Just as a quick summary there. So today, what we're going to do is we're going to be going through our favorite cards. Now, we don't mean here necessarily the best cards. I mean, Joseph means that, but Robert and I don't necessarily mean that. So we're just going to be talking about the cards we like and why we like them. Let's basically just dive into the next generation of State of the Federation here. Before we do that, I want to ask my wonderful co-hosts to just talk a little bit about themselves and who they are in the attack wing community. So Joseph, why don't you go ahead and start?
So I've been playing, I think I started just after the Dominion War wrapped up, so I missed the early waves, but since then I've been a steady player, probably about 4 OPs a month, give or take. I've played at Worlds both times. I've played Canadian Nationals and U.S. Nationals the last 2 years, which I won, and yeah, I'm involved in the Facebook group a lot, posting, and pretty much anywhere else I can get a good attack wing conversation going.
All right, great. What about you, Robert?
Excellent. So I started playing with Tholian Web, which was my first OP, and fell in love with the game. Thankfully, I played out in Santa Clara, where we had a gentleman's agreement that the board would not be played by any of the players, which helped keep the game alive and well out in the Bay Area. I went to the 2015 Worlds, where I got to meet these two wonderful gentlemen that I'm now co-hosting the show with, and have kept in touch with them as well as the community ever since. After regionals in 2016, I retired from the game and promptly picked up TOing, where I now TO in Fremont, California. That name should sound familiar because David Montgomery, who does different podcasting as well for Star Trek Attack Wing, will often host different Attack Wing recaps, and those recaps are from the store in Fremont where I TO.
And of course, obviously, David, used to be on the show with us. I mean, right when Will settled on co-hosts, it was me, Will, and David. So this is a in many ways a handing off of the what's the word I want? Baton.
Yes, in many ways.
Robert has David locked in his cellar if anyone wants to save him.
I let him out to go to the OPs. And that's why he has so much time to put out content, because that's all he does. We love you, David.
All right. So I'm also going to talk a little bit about myself, which I'm sure most of the people in the Attack Wing community are sick of hearing me do. I'm actually surprised to hear that I started playing earlier than either of these two. I started sort of mid-late-ish in the Dominion War. I competed in the Colorado Regionals, which was not the first, I think that was Texas, but one of the first regional events. I eventually went to nationals and worlds more in a journalistic capacity, part of the State of the Federation crew. That's where I met Joseph for the first time, who obviously had been in the chat back when this was a live show, and ended up, talking with me and Will and hanging out. It was pretty great. And, eventually joined us. I too have mostly retired from playing. I don't play OPs anymore. I am a very competitive person, and I do not like the person I am when I play for keeps. But I do quite a bit of playing, relatively speaking, and I can get intense at times. So, that's pretty much it for me as a person. The only thing I want to mention that I'm surprised nobody else mentioned is, in addition to rabid Attack Wing fans, we are all rabid baseball fans. And now that Will is finally gone, yeah. But in all
rebranding
seriousness,
State of the Federation as the baseball podcast you all wanted.
Yes, state of the ball game. No, that is not happening. It's probably sad that my first reason for that not happening is I don't know nearly enough about baseball. But the point is, yeah, I know, I'm a Sox fan, Red Sox fan. Joseph's a big Blue Jays fan. Robert, what's your team? Is it I don't want to be wrong.
Well, as the DH is a heathen unto the sport,
oh, God.
The only real team
not this again.
are the Giants.
Not this again.
Mired in the past.
Enough with it makes the game more exciting. Whatever. Okay, we're not having this argument.
Join us in the future, Robert. Join us in the future.
We're not having this. Will literally. The point of this episode is to talk about our favorite cards, not argue about the DH rule for 45 minutes, which we could do. We could do that.
I could make my opening remarks about the DH in 45 minutes.
And all those arguments would be wrong, except mine.
Okay. So you're here. Another thing by the way, another change in the show's format is we have moved from a live to an edited format, which is good because for all you know, we actually did have a 45-minute argument about the DH. And now we can save you from that. Anyway, I think it's time we should maybe transition into our favorite cards again. These are sort of the best in our mind by whatever criteria we wanted to use. They're not sort of the best overall. I mean, I'm looking at Joseph. It's kind of hard for me to look at Joseph's list and say these aren't the best card. These are some of the best cards in the game, but not all of them were chosen for that reason.
Yeah, I think it would be fair to say that these lists do really reflect the Spike, Johnny, and Timmy approach to Magic when I look down this list.
Yeah, a little bit. Everybody on this podcast plays Magic, by the way, or played Magic, or knows how to play Magic. Or, I mean, I've been playing this stupid game for 20 years, so I don't know about you guys, but yeah, so there will probably be occasional Magic the Gathering allusions, which I apologize profusely for. Anyway, but yeah, it does sort of have that competitive versus crazy pocket build versus let's just, go crazy with dice and stuff sort of aesthetic to it.
At the moment, until I win you guys over.
Well, look, you're not wrong. Like,
except when you are.
It just so happened. It just so happened that like when we put these lists together, if you look at them, like for example, my 3 favorite admirals are the 3 admirals we picked. So, though I guess there's less. Right. I guess there's less choice. Anyway, so let's go ahead and get started. We're going to go through. First, let's talk about ships. I will start us off. I picked for this I just picked the generic bioship. I mean, it's got a really strong stat line, and like to a certain extent, this is funny because the rest of the things I picked are all things that sort of combo well and interact with the game. But the nice thing about the bioship is you can just stick a captain on it and it's rocks. Like it's just you know it's point and shoot basically.
One thing I really love about bioships is that after all the tricks are done, your ship is normally better than their ship if you're
I
flying a
can say it is
bioship, right?
probably the one ship I have never flown in an OP.
Devil, devil, devil.
So for those who don't know, Joseph has competed in two U.S. nationals and two world championships at the time of this recording, and has never flown not bioships.
You can't argue with success. You can't argue with their success.
I will point out the one time he did fly no bioships, I beat you. Is that correct? Or did you have a bioship that day too?
I have no memory of that. I'd have to go back and check. It doesn't sound right, but
Uh huh.
I
Uh
couldn't
huh.
deny. I can't deny it outright.
For the record, Joseph and I have played once, and I won that game. So it is fair for me to always say that I own Joseph.
Well, this is getting off to a good start. uh,
Are you just saying this because you're not sure if you can make it out to Origins this year, and he'll have no opportunity to reply?
Yes.
they make up ground on Tabletop Simulator every day, Robert. So you better be careful because geography may not save you forever.
All right, moving rapidly along, Joseph. Why don't you tell us what ship you picked as your favorite ship?
So for my ship, I picked the Borg Scout Cube 608, not the 255. This is the one that allows you to discard an upgrade to get extra movement. I suppose for me, favorite and best are synonyms. But what I love probably the most about this ship is that it rewards making good decisions, and it savagely punishes making bad decisions. If you need to be at range 3 and end up at range 2, it's probably just going to die because it only has 4 shields and 2 hull. More poetically, that 3x3 map is an ocean in which no ore is dipped, and the Scout 608 goes where it will. That is what I love about that ship. It can appear at basically any corner of the map on any turn.
Was that a Sails of Glory reference?
Lawrence of Arabia.
No, but like it's the flight path was implemented in Sails. Never mind.
Robert?
Yeah, so my favorite ship, and I should identify when I say favorite in this category, these are the upgrades, ships, captains, and admirals that I think about the most often. And it's how can I use these cards to combo to build interesting and unique fleets. They may not be the best, like the generic bioship. They may not be the most utility available, like the Scout 608, but these are the ones that I think are most available for tinkering. And with that in mind, the ship that I have selected as my favorite is the USS Defiant, but it's the Defiant NCC 17640.
Excuse me, 1764.
1764. That would be what I meant to say. And the reason I like this ship is because it combines two of the most powerful factions in the game to allow for endless shenanigans. The one thing that the Mirror Universe consistently lacked was a top level ship to carry Admiral Worf or to allow for shenanigans. When people were flying Admiral Worf, they were taking either the ISS Enterprise or the Regents, which were not perfect fits. But now what you can do is you can take Admiral Worf, take on Type 8 phasers, take on upgraded phasers, take on Federation tech, Federation captains, and combine two groups that have fantastic utility, mix them together, and have extremely good output and highly efficient output. This ship is also prime for the lure faked message combo, which I expect would make appearances at Nationals and Worlds, which is the prime way to fly ships off the board. And that is something that we can also talk about later.
Actually, do you want to know what I want to talk about right now?
What do you want to talk about right now?
Do you know what I was thinking the entire time you were talking, or at least the first half?
Mm-hmm.
I swear to God, I'm going to pistol whip the next person who says shenanigans.
I love that movie.
But in all seriousness, I concur. I think that 1764 is going to be a great ship. You like the ship too, right, Joseph?
Flavor of the month. Nothing to nothing. No, yes, it is good. There are a lot of faction specific, or just in the case of mere cheap upgrades. So these are two factions that go together quite well.
And it,
you can cloak it.
And if you need you can cloak. Wow, yes, huh? That's funny because everybody wants it for the Enterprise because of the Enterprise incident, but you can get it on the Defiant. That's hilarious.
The one thing you can't do is have both kinds of enhanced hull plating on it. As soon as I saw it, that was the first thing I checked. But because that would have been gross. That would have been music to my ears.
That's a total Spike move.
That would have been great. What slots does it have, by the way?
Crew, cruise, weapon.
Great. So it's an awesome place to put Gen Cisco.
Yes. And it has the 2 natural slots for Type 8s and upgraded phasers, so you can use Sakona or Arsenal on your other ship of de jure.
And because it's Federation, systems upgrade can turn any slot into a tech slot for 2 points.
I'd rather use Gen Cisco for 1 more point. I get to screw with my opponent.
Oh yeah, because she gives it. Does she give a tech slot?
She does, doesn't she?
She does give a tech slot. However, system upgrades is cost neutral because you're getting that shield token for 2 points. So it gives you that little bit more durability, which is why I always like the Federation.
Oh my God. Just put the systems upgrade in Gen Cisco's tech slot if you're so obsessed with the shield.
But then how do I carry all my cards around? It's too cumbersome.
It's all about value.
All right, so that's I think that's a good summary of ships. Let's move on to captains. So Joseph, what did you pick for your captain?
The old, steady, reliable Mr. Jean-Luc Picard. Yes, he is extremely powerful, but I actually think, probably contrary to popular opinion, that he's pretty great design in general. He's iconic, and when you use his ability, or when he's putting battle stations on a ship that doesn't have it, it feels like Jean-Luc Picard, right? It feels like, you've put the man himself on the ship and everything's going to be okay. And he also teaches you how to play the game. If I'm ever teaching anyone, I almost always have him involved. One, because he's a great hook, because it's Jean-Luc Picard. But 2, you learn very quickly how important battle stations are, and giving battle stations to ships that can't get it normally, how great that is. And then beyond even that first learning step, he actually goes a step beyond, because in the more intermediate level, the first time you opt not to shoot, because you're just trying to protect points or your ship, and you use Picard to battle stations evade with a cloaked ship, which makes it so difficult to put damage through, is also kind of an eye-opening moment for players, I find. So he's cool and he's powerful. What more could you want?
I would want somebody that's an alien, because this is Star Trek and we have way too much Federation in our lives, so we need to mix it up. And so I believe we need to look outside of our galaxy in our quadrant, and we need to look to the Alpha Quadrant to find the real captain of the day, and that's Captain Carr.
Do you mean the Delta Quadrant?
Delta guy, I always get those backwards. The Delta Quadrant. The Delta Quadrant. Anyway, Captain Carr by far is the captain that I like to go to second. I will admit Jean-Luc goes on most of the builds that I have, but Carr is the captain I like to try to mix and match with, because once you start putting on Crew Riker to push up Carr to 11 skill, you start to take advantage of that +1, Also, because his ability of +1 attack and the 2 rerolls of 1 die use the phrase when attacking, that means it can be used on multiple attacks. So I always enjoy trying to find ways to get Carr to do multiple attacks. One particular way I enjoyed was having him on the Reliant with the EDT. That way, he gets the reroll on the EDT. The EDT gets a +1 because of the Reliant. It gets the +1 because of Carr, and it gets the 1 reroll. So it was a very fun combination that ended up doing incredibly well. So Carr is a captain that pairs well and can make bad combos okay.
Can you, for everybody at home who doesn't have all the cards memorized, can you explain what the EDT is?
Sure. The EDT is a card that came with the Ravlurst as a prize ship. 2 of them actually came with the Ravlurst as a prize ship, or was it 3? And the Gore Protoss, it is the Breen weapon that has to be fired at range 1. When you fire it, if you have 1 hit against the opposing ship, which gets to roll their normal defense, the ship gets a EDT token placed to it. Once you place the ED token, the opposing ship loses all of its shields and cannot perform an attack that turn. The next turn, it can only do a 1 forward, and the shields will not come up until after its next turn.
Robert.
And in addition to that, once you do the EDT attack, you actually get a free second attack.
Robert,
Yes.
what does EDT stand for?
Oh, I said it at the beginning. It's energy dissipator. Did I not say
I
that?
promise you did not say that.
Oh. EDT is energy dissipator, or ED is energy dissipator. EDT is energy dissipator token.
Which is why it killed my soul every time you said EDT token.
Oh, yeah. I get lost.
And hilariously, by the way, guys, he did not pick energy dissipator as his weapon, just in case you thought we spoiled that earlier. So, going on to captains, let's just round it out with mine. I picked a captain that is neither Federation or an alien. I decided to pick, while I admit he draws some hate because he was just a promo, I decided to pick the promo version of... So the great thing about him is he always matches captain skill. You know, you see a guy with captain skill 11, he's got captain skill 11, captain skill. What's the highest possible one you can do? Is it 18 now or 20 or something?
Yeah, I'm not sure.
I could, let's see, if it's a Klingon captain, you can get +6 pretty quickly with Worf and Riker.
I know, but like Fed has +2 admirals and they start at 9, and Klingon, well, it has a 9. It's Martok 9. Martok 9 is terrible, but they have them.
Right. If we're just trying to maximize that, you could go, like I said, you could go Klingon, add a +2 admiral, get +6 to that just from the crew, and is there any non-crew and admiral upgrades?
I don't know, but you could run it on a ship with like a million crew slots and throw on like Mara, whatever her name is from the Mirror Enterprise, and
There's the Romulan. There's those Romulan security officers or bodyguards or whatever they are too, right? So
the Bajoran.
Oh
security.
yeah.
I
okay, but the point is.
Go ahead. Sorry.
I'm getting off track here. The point is, whatever you spend on captain skill, I can spend 4 points and match it. And if I'm on a ship that's higher initiative, I'll go before you anyway. You know, Khan on a Federation ship is always at the very least tied for highest initiative. Or lowest initiative.
He will get initiative.
Shoots first. He shoots first is the point.
Yeah. Or as a counter to the 608 shenanigans pulled by Joseph, if you have Khan on a mirror ship, he moves last.
Right.
That won't save you.
If you have Khan on 608, then he'll move last almost always and get to do shenanigans with having perfect information about, you know,
where all
stuff.
those Fed and Klingon
Where
and
everybody's
Romulan
already
ships
moved.
are, and Borg ship.
Right, exactly. All right. So speaking of admirals, let's go ahead and go on to that. What do you think, Robert?
Sure. The admiral that I selected should be a surprise to no one. It is Gol Madrid. I do not have to wax and wane so much about the beauty of Gol Madrid. He is the way that every fleet building should begin. It's not how every fleet building should end, but it definitely is how every fleet building should begin. I am an adamant believer that people focus on captains as the engine to the fleets that they build, and Gol Madrid is the hard counter to those types of builds, such as Colo, old core builds, or even high-power Jean-Luc Picards.
I think that Gol Madrid is the worst. Counterpoint. Nuanced counterpoint.
So okay, actually, I'm curious to hear this. Why do you think Gol Madrid is the worst?
Because he can be disruptive to a lot of those captain builds, but if they have any of Lee Nallis backup, then you're not going to affect them at all. And a lot of the captain builds, it's just essential that they give you their movement or their ability for one turn. And it's hard for Gol Madrid to stop that on that first turn of engagement because they're coming into range 3 normally of your ships after you've moved because you've sunk a bunch of points into Gol Madrid and don't have points to get actually good upgrades in captains and admirals.
So basically, what Joseph is saying here is
Very true.
Well, but we all know in truth that there are 5.
Well, true.
So
True colors
he is the admiral to
revealed.
begin the game.
excuse me, Robert. Excuse me. That is simply incorrect.
Small caveat to this: the Cardassians are probably my second favorite race in Star Trek. So I might be slightly blinded on this issue.
Yeah, Cardis are cool. I'm not gonna lie. I'll give you that.
So
All right.
Tucker, what are you leaning towards, admirals?
I actually like. I'm surprised nobody else picked this. I picked Maxwell Forrest. I love Forrest. Forrest makes. This is where we start to get into the really Johnny parts of my list. Forrest makes so many unplayable ships playable. There, I said it. I mean, the ships like the Dominion Jem'Hadar battleship is the old
Yes.
one. Yeah, it's just it can't turn. It can't turn at all. It cannot turn. The Mirror Negvar is sort of the same way, and this is a card that says, "Oh, hey, you can do a 1 white hard turn. You can do that. Pretend you're a shuttle. It's cool." So
It was a great pairing him with Officer Exchange. Officer Exchanging Federation Dominion was something that I greatly enjoyed doing.
oh, Officer
A
Exchange.
moment of silence for the dead.
How we miss you.
For the glorious dead. Yeah.
Can we play
We
taps?
have to play taps.
No. 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 It's not happening.
Yeah.
Moving ahead. Let's see. So Maxwell Forrest, and it's not like he's insanely cheap.
Yeah, he's 3 points.
He's what, like 3 points or something off the top of my head? He's 3 points. He gives you a captain skill on top of all of this. He didn't even need that. If I have a bioship with Jean-Luc Picard and Maxwell Forrest, and you have a bioship with Jean-Luc Picard, I will not only get to Maxwell Forrest, I'll get to Maxwell Forrest after you've moved.
Yeah. You know what he does not have that drives me crazy whenever I place him into a build? He doesn't have a talent. Yep, no talent slot. That is his Achilles heel.
He'd be miles above any other admiral if he did have one.
Yeah. You know who has one? Admiral Worf. Why? I don't know.
He's a talented guy.
Because you want to be able to use his talent on the ship he's on. He has a talent. I don't remember what it's called. I'm looking on Space Dock right now.
I will.
I will deal with them myself. That's right. He gets the Darth Vader line.
That's it.
I have to say, we all probably know what talent I instantly think of when it comes to mirror talent.
What talent is that, Tucker?
We won't go back. I don't have that one queued up, unfortunately.
I was not feeding the joke. Do not feed the bears.
But no. I was not. I do not have that one queued up, unfortunately. I only have so many hilarious things available to me, but that one doesn't queue easily. I'm gonna have to make a separate audio file for it.
And that's unnecessary.
Yeah.
That was Robert's precondition for doing the podcast.
Absolutely.
That we go back.
That you have that on in can.
Yeah. It's not written anywhere, but it was mentioned multiple times to Joseph. That's the only way I would allow you on is if you did that every show.
I think that might be a little bit much. I think probably they would get a little sick of that.
Okay. Let us move
to Joseph's, actually.
I guess I almost am diverging because this is my favorite admiral, and I'd be hard pressed to say that he's definitively better than Forrester Worf. I picked Matt Decker. He is very powerful. He's only 1 point, so you can get tons of value from him, and especially back in the old officer exchange days, once again, when he was free, usually. He does have an elite talent slot, so that is useful. I often pair him with Gen Con, so his -1 to captaincy is irrelevant after the first after placement, and the talent slot that he gives you, Con doesn't force you to pay faction penalties on, so you can get a cheap 2-point talent to get battle stations or something like that very easily. And I love his ability, not for boosting your own ships. I don't think I've ever done that. But to go after your enemy ships if they have a wall of attack cancellations or just a handful of defense dice and have taken the most dishonorable tactic there is to try and achieve that victory, he can put an end to that in 4 turns on a 4-hull ship, and there's not a lot they can do about it.
Joseph, I have a quick question. With the USS Defiance 1764 coming out, would you rather go Gen Con with Matt Decker or Gen Con with Admiral Worf, paired with your 608?
Well, if it was Mirror Admiral Worf, you mean, right?
Correct.
It would have your last ship would have to be. You can do a 3-hull 30-point ship that has a bit of a punch, because it can't fire the 608 because it doesn't have a forward firing arc.
Oh, right.
So Worf would depend on the other ship, and the other ship would be pretty fragile. Decker, though, for 1 point would be pretty sweet, because the 608 can close to range 1 with complete ease.
Yeah, so it's not a close call for you? You think it's just Decker in most situations it's Decker without any controversy in your mind?
Excuse me. The 1764's ability is to get rerolls on attacks if you're out of the defending ship's arc. Clearly the admiral you use is Maxwell Forrest.
But he doesn't have the talent slot.
Yes, but to answer your question, Decker, in a fleet that has the 608 in it, Decker is probably the way to go.
All right, so moving ahead, now that we've been talking about talent slots for a while, let's talk about elite talents. I'm going to. I think we had written down that I was going to go first, but I'm actually going to have you guys go ahead because you actually picked the same one. It's the only one where any of us picked the same
because
thing.
It's the only right answer.
So go ahead and you guys.
Yeah.
Favorite, not strongest guy.
But here we see the overlap. The Timmy and the Spike agree.
But see, here's the thing. I want to point out It is not superior intellect.
That is,
Will.
that is true.
No.
It will
Very
never
true.
work. Joseph, why don't you talk about the glorious lure?
So this for me is, it's just the best. I think with apologies to Projected Stasis Field, it's the most powerful card in the game. Speaking to Tucker, it does make Admiral Forrest a lot better for your opponent, because he's one of the only fairly reliable ways to deal with it. Anything that forces your opponent to do something with his own ships, in this case, a green maneuver of your choice, is dramatically powerful. And there are very few effects in the game that you force your opponent to do anything, let alone a movement. So it just ends up being a control card to sort of it can be an attack cancel by making them veer off. It can stop them from activating abilities that require a certain movement to trigger. You can set the engagement where you want it. You can split up their ships. It's just a toolbox card with an amazing amount of power.
Yeah. I have to echo everything Joseph said. I was building fleets with Faked Message when Faked Message first came out, and then Lure just simply improved on Faked Message. It is fantastic what you can do with this card to limit your opposing player to accomplish what they set out to do with their fleet.
And perhaps relevant that Peter's fleet that won the last year's World Championships started out as, I'm playing with Lure and I'm playing with Fake Messages, and we'll build around those two cards.
Yep. And I still think that's a wise strategy to this day. So Tucker, since you did not pick Lure, you did not pick I Stab at Thee. Did you pick We Won't Go Back?
Oh, we won't go back!
There it is. No, I actually I dithered on this. I think I'm gonna pick something different than we actually had written down. Like, this is sort of a last minute substitution. I originally put I Stab at Thee because blowing yourself up is fun, which, I mean, I think maybe that says something, guys. But the point is, I wound up picking a card called Diplomacy. Diplomacy is a 5-point Vulcan talent. It says, action, choose an enemy ship. Neither your ship nor the enemy ship can attack or be attacked this turn. A preemptive attack cancel is really good. And for reasons I don't understand, it's just fallen out of use. I think because it sort of wasn't the new sexiness for a while, and it just hasn't been, sort of fell off people's radars. I think that it deserves a comeback. You know, I think it's a fun card when your opponent forgets about it, and then they get that one critical turn where everything's lined up for them, and you're just like, I guess nothing you have is shooting at me.
What's the range on it, Tucker?
I think it's range 1 to 3. Let me double check.
Okay. So I think it is. Yeah. So that also enhances it because you can take a smaller ship and keep it back and just sort of hang out in range 3 to execute it on that first round of engagement.
It is. It's range 1 to 3. Actually, as it happens, that's what Will Sanchez, former host, was a huge proponent of this talent, and he would put it on his Romulan scout vessels back in the day. You know, back when it was still Borg cubes everywhere, he would throw Diplomacy on there, and that very often turned the tide.
And that range 3 is critical because it is sort of a separator from Projected Stasis Field, which is only range 1 to 2.
Yeah, and generally in my building, I think in general for building, seeing that range 3 opportunity is what makes a card successful. For example, Arturus can disable a captain or crew at range 3, but Deanna Troi cannot disable a captain at range 3. And for me, that's actually a really big deciding factor between those two different cards.
On a similar note, well, I guess he technically can disable it in range 3. You know what?
Who's
It doesn't
this?
even have to be in range. Interesting. Okay. Chang.
I heard nothing. I heard nothing.
We heard nothing.
Yes, I've actually never used diplomacy, but it is one of those cards I always go to and try to put into a fleet, and it somehow gets muscled out by usually something like lore.
Well, here's the other thing, though. If you put it onto not a support ship, onto one of your high-value ships, that ship has high enough captain skill and your opponent doesn't notice it, and they projected stasis field that ship, you diplomacy literally anything, and now they've wasted their PSF.
Yep, it's a great counter. Actually, out of curiosity, how would diplomacy work if a ship has colo on it? If I colo a ship that has diplomacy, or if I diplomacy a ship that has colo, no ship can actually attack colo. So can colo then can colo's ability not trigger?
Wow, that's a great question.
That's a really good question.
And I want the
Yeah.
That's your strategy tip for the day, guys.
Let's bring back diplomacy.
excellent. Wow.
All right.
Do we want to unpack that, or do we want to move on?
Let's all go home and play test that a little bit.
Yeah, I want to read the text.
Well, how about this? It's just for sake, let's read both cards so people have both cards in mind, and we will leave it at that for people to ponder. Diplomacy reads, action, discard this card and target one enemy ship within range 1 to 3. Discard all tokens from beside your ship and the target ship except for auxiliary power tokens. Both your ship and the target ship cannot attack or be attacked this round. Colo reads, when a friendly ship within range 1 of your ship is defending, during the declare target step, your ship may become the target of this attack instead of the friendly ship. Treat this attack as though your ship were in the same range as your friendly ship. Does that clarify it for anybody?
I feel like maybe there's a ruling here with like...
Is this the specific ruling in the rulebook?
No, I'm thinking about like core, but he says if able. Or Bashir or something. I feel like we've seen this before.
It could be applicable to core, to the old core as well, right?
Old core says must attack if able. They're not able.
Yeah.
Right. So old core clearly would be canceled by diplomacy.
Right.
But would Colo be canceled by diplomacy?
Okay. Well, here's a good thing. What about Julian Bashir? Because Julian Bashir says it must attack your ship and cannot attack any other ship. Can't attack this ship. Can't attack any other ship. Yeah, it even says...
I think...
It even says if that ship attacks this round.
Sorry. They might have got that in that ruling on Julian Bashir.
No. They explicitly said in the ruling on Bashir that if you're out of arc, he still works.
And I think the other ruling Joseph is referring to is the one where if Julian Bashir leaves, the ship that has Bashir leaves play. Is that the ruling you're referring to?
That's what I'm saying. On that same ruling, they said if he's out of arc, he still works. Huh. Wow. See, this is why coming together and talk about strategy is a good thing. And let's keep going on that regard and talk about crew. Joseph, who'd you pick for crew?
I picked Sakona, who's an independent crew, for 2 points, and any weapon that goes onto your ship that costs 5 or less, you get -2 on. She is probably the workhorse of the game. I love Picard, I love the 608, I love bioships. I play Sakona more than any of those things. I'd be hard-pressed to think of the last time I had a build that she wasn't in. Normally she gets you a couple points at minimum. On something like the 608, she's the reason that the ship is so good.
I will say Sakona goes on many of my builds too. It is amazing what you need for that one weapon slot. A common thing I always like to do is use the Dauntless with Hudson, Sakona to get disruptor beams, the Romulan disruptor beams on there to pump up a 7 attack on that ship. So yes, huge fan of Sakona.
She's just so good. That would be an example of a card I don't like. You know how there's Drexen and Garen? If they did that with Sakona, it would be a step too far, I think.
You know what I actually find incredibly frustrating about Sakona is she was released with the collective boosters that are actually now difficult to find. I had a couple left at our venue, and somebody came in who had been playing for a while, and it turned out he didn't have Sakona because he just never got that booster. And so that's a card that is not readily available as it should be.
Yeah, I think Dispersion Field was on a resistance booster too, so it's tough.
But yeah, she's an ad, especially for Federation ships when you want to put on Type 8 phasers, Arsenal, and upgraded phasers. For a combined 3 points for those?
Yeah.
Something low. She's fantastic. Yeah. So I would imagine, as much as Joseph put Sakona on every fleet, the choice that I have selected is probably also on Joseph's list for every one of his builds, and that would be Quark. And Quark is simply my favorite card because it makes any 5-point talent cost 2 to 3 points.
Do you mean tech or weapon?
And tech or weapon, yeah. Yeah. And you'll be doing that a lot in Tucker, correcting me on these wonderful little EDT token.
You just need to picture me like Google search, you know.
Yeah. Yeah. No, you're my Alexa. Do we have any Alexas out there? Alexa, beam me up. Let's see who's listening someday. Anyway, so Quark is just so universally used. Every fleet uses Quark. If you want to use Warp Jump, you use Quark. If you want to use Quantum Slipstream Drive, those might be 6 points. But every fleet can use Quark, and it is a Swiss Army knife that just you always take.
Yeah, he's never not there. You're correct.
Yeah, especially when you illegally put on magnetic guided charges, which I tried to do on many occasions.
Oh, because it's not Borg, right?
Yeah, exactly.
Well, on that note, when you need a Borg tech, or you're using Quark somewhere else, or you need a 6-point tech, or you're going to get a faction penalty from projected stasis field and can't put it under Quark, you know who you get? Eric Motz.
Wait, system upgrade?
Eric Motz. Because sometimes, Robert, people fly ships that aren't Federation.
Oh, like the USS Defiant NCC 1764.
No, that ship is Federation. Just because it is also something else does not mean that it is not Federation.
Oh, this game is so complicated.
Like maybe, you feel like you need an extra upgrade or two for Scout 608. No, the reason I picked Eric Motz is I went through Battle Station. Like, there's a lot of crew out there that I like. There's a lot of crew out there that I like. But, like, weirdly, if you go through all of my Battle Station archives, Battle Station being another podcast I do, like, I end up using Eric Motz a lot. Like, a lot. And he just makes options available because tech is still the least common slot type of the 3 main slots, tech, weapon, crew. And, like, very often I'll just need to convert a crew to tech on a ship that isn't Federation. Robert.
So out of curiosity, what has been your best use of him on a non-Federation ship? Like when the Deidrixes maybe, or...
Oh, no, Quark's Treasure. All the time, every time. Because you can chain cargo hold into him and something else, like him and Quark. And then you can get like 10 points of tech off cargo hold, which is not what you're supposed to do with that card.
A lot of the early ships, which have generally the best slots, are especially lacking in tech slots. So he does do a lot. They're the best platforms usually as ships go, and very lacking in tech slots.
I agree that I have used Eric Motz. Actually, I too have probably used Eric Motz more than I have used system upgrades in my builds. Just because you're right, Tucker, the non-Federation component allows him to have so much more flexibility.
There's reasons to use him even on a Federation ship. If you have Kor as the captain, he's great.
True, or Duras.
I will say there is... Oh, I don't have the Duras sound queued up. Oh, how did I not do the Duras one? Oh, things for later. The one thing I will say about Eric Motz that makes me feel a little weird is that's a real guy. Like all the Pegasus crew are like real people put in as Easter eggs. So Eric Motz is like, there's a guy with that face that is a photo of him running around being Eric Motz and being a key player in this game. And I don't know how I feel about that.
The cards have pictures on them?
Yeah, I think.
Yeah. All but one of them are actually from the Star Trek TV show.
Wait, which one's not from the Star Trek TV show?
I'm cheating a little bit. Projected Stasis Field is from the animated series.
What about the Avatar of Tomed? There's no assimilated Daedrics in a TV show.
That's true. That's actually from a novel, and I use that term very loosely. Written, and I use that term very loosely, by William Shatner.
Do you use that term loosely?
We're getting dangerously close to criticizing William Shatner, so perhaps
We do need to stay away from that.
Joseph, I don't understand how you think it's possible for me to criticize such a fantastic actor as William Shatner has forever proven himself to be.
That was beautiful. Tucker, that was beautiful.
Yes.
Thank you. That's very kind of you to say. Hey, let's keep moving. So next one, we got two more to go here. We're looking at weapons next. So Robert, why don't you go ahead and fill us in on what your favorite weapon is?
Sure. My favorite weapon is another one of those cards that always has me thinking of how I can use this card. And unfortunately, I have never quite gotten to work or used it in tournaments, but it always has me thinking. And that is the Xindi prototype weapon. What I like about the Xindi prototype weapon is that you are required to place a mission token within range 2 of your ship and its firing arc before determining which ships are in a straight line to attack. This means theoretically you can actually attack ships outside of your range 3 because of the distance on the mission token or outside of your arc. And as I was mentioning earlier, with a captain-like car, you can get multiple attacks, upgrade those attacks by additional +1 attacks or rerolls, and I just like how that synergizes. People always ask, or I guess one of the questions is, how do you protect car? Because a prototype weapon requires you to discard the captain. There's two ways that you can really get around that. One is with a crew such as Lee Nihilus. So you discard Lee Nihilus to protect car. Or the other option right now is the Fleet Commander resource. So when you execute, when you have to discard a captain, you discard your secondary captain and not car. But it is just fun to play with and think about what can be done.
You want to know what the most fun part about that card for me is?
What?
When you activate it and then you put the little token down and then you just go,
That's no moon.
that was for all the X-Wing fans out there.
Yeah, I don't know if it has competitive play value, but just the idea of the card and how you can work with it was just always fun.
It doesn't.
Well, actually, I mean, it probably doesn't, but quick plug, next week's episode of Battle Station, all about prototype weapon. No joke.
I do think it does actually have utility against fighter builds, because if you can take off a couple tokens from multiple fighters, that would be of use.
How are you?
But that's all I got for it.
How are you taking out multiple tokens?
On multiple fighters?
Oh.
Yeah, you take tokens off of 2 different fighters. So anything against fighters that have multiple attacks or do multiple damage, that's the weakness of the fighter builds. So Tucker, what was the weapon that you selected?
Oh, hi! I almost just skipped all of our. Wow. My pick for weapon was. It actually says here on our list, Type 8 phaser array and similar. At this point, I mean, in the beginning there was Type 8 phaser array and it was Hood. Waka waka. No, it's the thing about Type 8 phaser array is it just makes a lot of ships that are like unplayable without it playable. Same with upgraded phasers. Same with that Romulan disruptor cannon that is a mirror upgrade that all the faction pure players get really salty about. Same with I don't know, all those weird main batteries or whatever. Anything that takes a ship that says, "So my primary weapon sucks, but I have so much else off to offer," and says, "Okay, let's see what you have to offer." I'm in favor of. I mean, it takes the Hathaway from nearly unplayable to a friggin' rock star.
I agree. I think what I found most interesting about Type 8 phasers and ultimately the upgraded phasers is the 3 attack Federation ship just immediately launched into becoming some of the best ships in the game because they had superior maneuverability as being smaller ships, but now they could just start attacking with 5 dice to be on par with some of the larger ships.
Yeah, it's actually, we've gotten to the point where 1764 and the Hathaway are arguably the 2 best ships in the game at this point because they both have them, and those are 2 ships in the show that appear as complete wrecks and almost practically unusable. Suck it, canon nerds.
I will say the USS Defiant 1764 did manage to take over Earth. So it wasn't a complete
That's
waste.
true. Mirror Earth, Terra.
Mirror.
No true Terran would have allowed that. It's all mirror universe baloney. When did that happen?
Mirror Darkly, Enterprise.
I thought it ended.
I'm making a controversial statement, by the way. The Mirror Darkly opening is the best opening in all of Star Trek. Done.
Put a video feed on so people can see me shaking my head.
I will say this. I think that the Mirror Darkly cold open is one of the best cold opens in Star Trek. The best cold open in Star Trek. Oh, what's the name of the episode? I want to say Cause and Effect, where you go in and it's like, oh shoot, it's red alert. Oh shoot, everything exploding. Oh shoot, he said the damage is irreparable. Oh shoot, Picard just said abandoned ship. Oh shoot, the Energize just blew up. What is happening?
Yeah, that's Cause and Effect. That's a fantastic episode.
Right, that's the best cold open in Star Trek. But the second best is In a Mirror Darkly, especially if you've recently watched First Contact.
Yeah. So speaking of First Contact, Joseph, what is your favorite weapon?
I chose, or my favorite weapon is the magnetometric guided charge, Borg weapon. It's just 3 attack dice. You do get to convert battle stations into a crit, but the most potent and delightful thing it does is it prevents your opponent's ship from rolling any evade dice. So if Sakona is sort of the engine that makes the 608 run, these charges are the straw that stirs the drink, so to speak. It lets those 3 attack dice rip through pretty much anything. Nothing can dare really to cloak around it. And I guess on a non-competitive and basically petty level, I like that you can fill those Federation clown cars with Riker, with Sulu, with El Madigan, put some multi-adaptive shields on it, and it doesn't matter because the 608 or whatever has a mag charge is just gonna slowly kill them, and all those defense dice remain at the side of the table where they belong.
Yeah, it is a weapon that I have used quite a bit once we saw more evade knots come onto the board. It's also fantastic against the scimitar, where people believe it is impervious to any kind of attack, and magnetic guided charges starts poking away. One of my favorite things to watch in a game is the scimitar player try to decide whether or not to activate the interface generator when the magnetic guided charges only did 2 damage. And they have that strange look on their face deciding the pros.
How about when they have to decide it when you've just put a crit only on them and they want to change it to not a crit?
Exactly.
That's the most delightful. That's when
Yeah.
the 608 with magnetometric guided charge, the sphere and any Borg ship can cut through scimitars so well. And scimitars were, like the ship of the line for about 6 months, right?
I still see them play quite a bit. Although I will say I see now more Enterprises and Enterprise A's and Hathaways at our venue. Yeah. But speaking of Tucker, why don't you roll us over into our final category?
I picked an obvious one. This is my only entry from. So this is, as we all know, we are the Borg. The Borg are amazing, but prior to me being a Borg player, I was a huge fan of Klingons, and I still am. And it makes me sad that this is my only Klingon upgrade on this list. Because what was I going to put in elite talent? Ugh. But have you seen the Klingon elite talents? Anyway, but this was the card that made many of my old builds work, and that's projected stasis field. I mean, you can't attack. I drop your shields, and I dogpile on you to blow you out of the sky. It's just one of my favorite effects in this game. I just love it.
So Tucker, how did you deal with your ship losing 2 attack dice? Because I feel that's a big cost effect for me. If I dump this on my larger ship, or I'm only running sort of 3 big hitting ships going aggro, I don't want to take something like projected stasis field because I'm losing that attack value.
So, Borg aside, the highest durability in the game, I think, or the highest hull in the game, aside from Borg, I think is 6.
Weapon 0 has 8.
Well, I'm thinking of D'Derdex's actually, but if you can't kill your opponent who has his shields down, so he has a maximum HP of 6, and you have at least 1, probably 2 other big shots lined up, what the hell? I mean, seriously, what the hell? Yeah. Number 1. Number 2, I don't think you understand. 4 Vorchas, 4 projected stasis fields, Fox only, Final Destination. Please don't ever actually do that.
No, I will not. Yeah, it can definitely be a powerful combo. And I think Joseph has used this card very well with shuttles because you find ships that are not likely to attack. Therefore, the -2 to the attack is negated. Is that correct, Joseph?
Well, yeah, it still happens, but the shuttle's not there to attack anyway, right? I think that, as I mentioned earlier, Lure is the only card in the conversation with this for the best one in the game, period. So it's a powerful card.
It's also worth mentioning. I disagree because I think your tech might actually be in that conversation as well, but for sort of the opposite reason. But the thing is, shuttles are also really good with it because you can deploy the shuttle, and then like that gets you to range 2 with its movement.
Right, I absolutely agree. And I think one problem I had with this card, and we've talked about it a little bit, is it's a hard card to use on first engagement, especially determining your captain skill. But if you have it on the shuttle, you can launch your shuttle to really guarantee that range 1 to 2 to execute.
Yeah, it's almost impossible for them to keep at a range 2, because the shuttle's getting range 1 when it deploys, and then it can do most shuttles can do a 2 forward green to get them into range.
Yeah. Excellent. So this specific tech has the weakness of being somewhat weakened against cloaking ships because cloaking ships do not have any shields to be disabled. And Joseph, your tech seems to have the exact opposite problem.
Yeah. So I chose interface generator, an old standby. A very old and dear friend of mine who I play Magic with. He normally plays blue, and he loves counterspells because he's that kind of person. But he always says sometimes you just need the ability to say no. And that's what Interface Generator is. As long as your ship is cloaked, they can do a 15 dice duress attack. They can, have perfect quality. They can do whatever they want. You're not taking more than a damage. They can roll all crits. You're not taking more than one normal damage. It
is fantastic. I have seen it combined with Colo or other types of draw attack builds. So you draw your attack in, and it's just a fantastic, very cost-effective way to do attack cancellation.
And it's non-unique. So
And it's not unique. And it's the strange requirement of only one per ship. So you can run 3 or 4 of these.
I remember for a while there was this thing that would happen where people would, like, right when shuttle dreadnoughts first came out, like the idea people had was, hey, why don't I take a shuttle and a scimitar and like 8 interface generators? That's a great build. And sadly, that actually is better than about 60% of what you can do in this game.
There are slight diminishing returns after about 3 of them, because 8 interface generators, unless you have Mirok on the scimitar, that's 8 damage to the hull, so you're gonna die, right?
Hey, guess who they tended to put as captain?
You take, who is it? Galtaro? Who's the Cardassian that gives the one action for repairing 1 hull?
Glendaro, and he's still not great.
So to round this out for this evening, the tech I selected was one that I instantly fell in love with when I opened up the packaging and saw this card, and immediately my mind started to work. It also pairs well with many of the cards on my list for my favorites, just because it has fantastic synergy, and that is Quantum Slipstream Drive. The card is a fantastic way to move around the board and try to get out of the arc of your opponents, and its power was only strengthened, empowered, improved when Worf. I don't know if Worf made this ruling, but when the community consensus was that you do your additional movement after you place it back on the board. So the idea of the card is that you have to reveal a 5 or faster movement. You take it off the board, place it outside of range 3 of any ship, and then you must perform the maneuver that you have revealed. So how I started using this card is with things like Gol Madred, or Second of 5, because I can then get in that range 2 to 3 of an opponent, be able to take out their captain while they're out of arc, because as Joseph stated correctly, it's hard to execute Madrid when you are first engaging. So you pair Quantum Slipstream Drive with Madrid, slip in behind them, you're within range 3, you can kill a captain before their fleet can turn around. And I believe different ways to manipulate movement in this game is really one of the underutilized skills, because it's a great way to get advantages on arc.
I completely agree. That's why I like Forest.
And you can certainly jump on fleets first turn, as you said, so they're right back on their heels, which is very, very powerful. And certainly against shuttles.
Yeah, I think it's just a lot of creative utility of how you can stop somebody from executing their combo if you can get in there fast enough.
So, to clarify, great card. Don't waste it on Madrid, everyone out there.
I respectfully disagree.
All right. Any final thoughts about any of these things, you guys?
The DH is the devil.
The DH is the beginning of the future that Star Trek represents.
Oh my God, that is not what I meant. Whatever. All right, that's clearly enough. That's all for tonight, you guys. I hope you enjoyed our show. If you did, go ahead and give it a good review on iTunes. We'd really love it if you did that. It'd mean a lot to us. We're hoping to be releasing these every first and third and possibly fifth, if necessary, Monday at midnight. So right at the top of the week. Next time, we'll be looking at the Mirror Darkly OP and a buying guide for newer players. So we hope to see you then, but until then, dials down and may Q be generous with your dice. State of the Federation is a non-profit fan-based production of Tucker Kobe, Joseph Vanderyacht, and Robert Fletcher. Star Trek, Star Trek Attack Wing, and all other copyrights are owned by their respective copyright holders. State of the Federation original concept created by William Sanchez.